members and the supporters of WHYY. Studio 2 is just over 2 years old. We were able to start this from scratch and build up the show, and we're now on YouTube. We're tinkering with streaming also on Facebook and TikTok. I mean, we're trying to grow the show and be places where there are. If you're on Instagram, you've probably seen some of the little reels, the snippets of the show. And our show wouldn't be our show without our callers and the folks who email in. And so this is an active conversation, a multi-way conversation. And if this is something that you value, become a member today. WHYY.org/radio. We ask that you put a pledge on it. We need 15 this hour. We've got 3 so far. 12 more would make us very happy. And welcome back to Studio 2. I'm Cherry Gregg.
And I'm Avi Wolfman-Arent. Last year, the U.S. Capitol Police investigated nearly 10,000 concerning statements and direct threats against members of Congress. Now, as recently as 2017, that same number was below 4,000.
That data point is one of several suggesting a real and sustained uptick in political violence. So what's driving the trend? It's a question that looms larger after the recent assassination of Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband.
Political violence is a topic that terrifies and confounds many of us. Our guest today will help us unpack its causes and understand that uptick in the context of American history. Kurt Braddock is an assistant professor of public communication at American University. Kurt, thanks for being here.
Avi, good to be here.
It's really great to have you, Kurt. The same to Kevin Boyle, who teaches American history at Northwestern University and joins us via Zoom. Kevin, welcome to Studio 2.
Thanks so much for having me.
And for you, our listeners, we want you to participate in the conversation. Our question of the day is this: what do you think is behind the rise in political violence? You can call 888-477-9499 or email studio2@whyy.org to participate. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to leave your comments in the live chat. And so, gentlemen, I want to kind of take both of you back to when you first heard the news break about in Minnesota. There is a state representative and her husband gunned down. They died. There's another state representative and his wife critically injured. Your thoughts in the context of the work that you do and knowing that this was an act of political violence. And Kurt, we'll start with you.
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't surprised. Like, I wasn't as taken aback as I feel like I should have been, but this seems like kind of the natural culmination of where we've been heading. We don't have to think too far back about there were kidnapping and assassination attempts on other high-profile politicians, Gretchen Whitmer being one of the most high-profile, but I was almost disappointed in the fact that I wasn't that surprised by the assassination, or the attempt and the successful assassination, because we've kind of been heading in this direction.
So you kind of saw this coming. Kevin, your thoughts?
It's absolutely horrifying to read about it. I think one of the things that really struck me was that the victims of this attack weren't high-level profile politicians. They were state politicians. And I think that's one of the dynamics that's really changed in recent years, is the targets of violence have expanded out really dramatically.
Yeah, so let's talk about how this compares to the past. You marked that, Kevin Boyle, as a shift. The idea that the range of targets seems broader than it did. Does it seem broader than ever? Is this unusual even in the scope of American history?
Yeah, I think the United States, unfortunately, has a really long and bloody history of political violence, depending on how you define an act of political violence. There have been periods in American history, the early 20th century, a lot of the 1960s, where political violence was widespread. And I don't know for sure if I could say that the acts of political violence have grown bigger in that time, but I think they've shifted. You mentioned January 6th. That's a dramatic expansion of political violence. I'd be very hard-pressed to think of another incident that compares to a massive mob assault on the Capitol trying to stop one of the most fundamental moments in the American democratic process. So that's political violence reaching an epic scale. And on the other hand, there is this continual threat and now acts of violence against politicians who most people, or political figures, most people wouldn't even know their names. I suspect there's all sorts of people in the United States who have no idea who their state representative is. And then there have been attacks on, threats on election workers. That's a movement down the scale at the same time that violence has moved up the scale.